Welcome to Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort, where we dive into the deep discussions of most pressing global and national issues. Last month, there were three important visits. On the invitation of the Government of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, Deputy Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Ishaq Dar, paid an official visit to Dhaka on 23rd and 24 August. At the same time, simultaneously, the Pakistani Army Chief visited China and the very youngest Lieutenant General Faiz, visited Pakistan. I welcome you, Mr. Samsul Alam Pantho. We will discuss a lot more about the Pakistan-Bangladesh relationship as well as Pakistan-China relationship and Bangladesh's foreign policy as well. Mr. Samsul Alam Pantho is international political analyst. We welcome you to the show and we will discuss different issues.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. First question to you, is it a coincidence or is it deliberate choreography? These three visits together simultaneously?
Well, let me begin by saying that before Ishaq Dar came to Bangladesh, we've seen the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visiting not just Pakistan but India as well. But Pakistan was at the end of his shows or end of his travel plans. But as per your question, when Ishaq Dar was in Bangladesh, it was quite a busy week, and I happened to live in Gulshan, reside in Gulshan, and I was nearby the Pakistani High Commission as I saw the political figures of the current times being present there. And of course, it has some kind of very big significance of Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan visiting Bangladesh, that too after 13 years. We did cover this all on another show, but as today I am a political analyst as well as a commentator on international affairs, and I understand that it has high significance for Bangladesh. What are the giveaways, how we can both have a mutually benefiting relationship, of course, not to forget what has happened in the past. Of course, remembering those should create a way forward. I also understand that it will be a very transformative experience as the relationship between the two countries have been at a halt for a long time, especially like regional cooperations. If you look at the SARC, remains defunct ever since 2014, of course, due to our common neighbor between the two countries, India. And at this stage, the world politics is changing ever so much. And as you know, the Trump tariff policy issues, what it does was it has moved India's tariff into 50% bracket, which is quite so dangerous for that economy. But if you look at Pakistan and Bangladesh, we're in the same bracket, roughly 19 or 20% tariff, and that's what opens us up to any kind of trade opportunities with Pakistan, as you were telling me earlier.
You are a trade opportunity analyst as well. You know how international trade runs. When Pakistani Foreign Minister visited Bangladesh, before that day, the Chinese Foreign Minister visited Delhi and he flew back to Islamabad,
yes,
just to reassure the fact that their visit to India doesn't have any effect on the historical friendship that, yes, Pakistan and China has. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you can say, when the Pakistani Foreign Minister came, or the Deputy Prime Minister came to Bangladesh after decades, in the airport, the Foreign Secretary was there. Even the foreign advisor wasn't there. So what was the problem? In international relation, you need a warm expression.
Of course.
You need a warm welcome. So sometimes protocol doesn't matter. International relation doesn't run on Vienna Convention on diplomatic relation or Vienna Convention on consular relation. People in country-to-country friendship, people do go out of the box.
Yes.
So what was the reason behind this cold welcome?
Well, we were all excited listening to the tabloids. When a foreign dignitary is to arrive at any country, the media, if not the journalists, are always looking forward to when and what situation it will happen in. But I was especially disappointed because it's a counterpart issue. When a foreign minister is here, anyone who is in the charge of the foreign ministry in Bangladesh should have been there at the red carpet. To welcome. That is just a simple
gesture of friendship.
It's just part of rules, protocol, if you would say.
Convention, I guess.
Convention, yes, of course. But to a certain extent, he was received, and later on, it did create some shockwaves in local news media channels as well. Of course, NCP, National Citizen Party, some people, they're quite so infamous in recent times, and people don't people have varied views on the political aspect, but they were one of the first party is to be greeting Ishak Dar, Honorable Foreign Minister. When, of course, Ishak Dar had met Begum Khaleda Zia as well, and not only that, had met Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus and the Jamuna Guest House. And of course, I wouldn't understand how far the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is concerned. I'm not sure how they handled the foreign dignitaries' arrival in Bangladesh, but later onwards, it was a two-day or 3-day visit. Later onwards, we saw that there was a comment made by the Honorable Foreign Minister that we need to replenish, if not clean our hearts for a better understanding between the two countries. This is as far as his visit is significant. But there are other aspects where the two countries do share a historical past, maybe grievances as well in our end. But there are issues of an apology for the 1971 gruesomeness that they have shown us in this part of the world. Of course, back then I wasn't alive, but my father's generation was there. And what they told us is that Bangladesh was going through a very transformative and a tough, challenging time. Of course, history does mandate that Pakistan has apologized to us not once but twice. I don't remember exactly his name.
Simla Treaty.
Not just that.
Parvez Musharraf.
Yes, Parvez Musharraf was
when he came to Bangladesh.
When he came to Bangladesh as well. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto as well. I'll be very specific. In 1974, if not, he said, didn't direct apologize, say sorry. He said tawbah, which is a religious word that shows decree for it to never happen
whatever
again.
Wrong that they have done.
Yes.
They're regretting for this.
They're regretting for that. So
that's what tawbah means in Arabic.
Yes, there you go. So that's what the history says, and that happened once. And then, of course, when Parvez Musharraf, the general, came to Bangladesh, I think 20 years back, even then the apology was issued. Even recently, when Imran Khan was in charge of Pakistan's government, he had put it to issue that we must apologize once more.
But let me interrupt you. You represent the young generation as well.
Yes.
You're a political, international, renowned political analyst who actually represent the young generation of Bangladesh. I've talked with so many Pakistani ambassadors. I was listening to Rafiuz Zaman Siddiqui, the ex-ambassador, High Commissioner of Pakistan to Dhaka. He said that, my question is that as well, that whether this young generation does know what would be the language of that apology, what would be the form of that apology, when young generation, along with the historians, demand apology, do they know in which form, in which language, in which ceremony does they want that apology? So did we make any, clear and unambiguous demand of the form of the apology? Or what young generation, in which way young generation does want that apology to happen?
Well, it could be just words and words on pieces of paper. But as far as I understand, for a long-term relationship, well, it has been almost half a century since the gruesomeness had happened. And at this moment, the Generation Z, most of them, they only read about this event through their history textbooks. And even me, millennials, even us, we haven't seen the types of gruesomeness that they have shown. But I would want a working relationship. What is the type of an apology? Since we have done this in your past, let us work together for a better understanding of Bangladesh's development. Maybe if on that plateau they can offer us economic benefits, whether it be trade surpluses, benefits in working mutual understanding, and whatever the rhetoric or narratives are, maybe then maybe the younger generation would be of acceptance towards any kind of humanity they show us. But of course, I even take to heed that history repeats itself if you don't learn from its lessons. That's what I'm a firm believer of. And of course, the last ousted regime, people say they are of the Indian government and Indian administration is running them, and that's what the general consensus was before. So I wouldn't want Bangladesh to be pushed around by any nation, regardless, and that's where a strong love for my motherland comes from. Not everyone will see eye to eye on this issue, but if it's geopolitics at helm, the military parade that happened in Shanghai, very recent, just 2 days ago, it had world leaders there, almost 26 to 30 nations, and there was someone from Bangladesh representing us. I think it was Dr. Khalilur Rahman. Social media nowadays are so fast in getting the information across, and of course it holds a big significance as the Eastern or the Global South, as they call it, is becoming a very powerful pact. It's bothering the United States as well. These are all geopolitical gibberish, but from what I understand is peace should be always the way forward. Of course, Bangladesh's foreign policy is friendship to all, allies to none. We must understand how far this friendship we can use to garner for our benefits as well.
So what about this relationship with Pakistan and China? Does it send the right kind of message to India and our friends in European Union? Because we need the buyers in European Union. Because we do the same business, Chinese do the same business, we are in the business of garment. So we can't export to Pakistan and China. Our biggest, as an exporter, our biggest market is in European Union. Our biggest market is in USA. So what do you think that our European counterparts or allies or friends will think this closeness to Pakistan and China? Does Pakistan and China even have the capacity to be a friend that could help in our distress?
Quite an important question or statement that you've given me. Look at China and Pakistan, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. A part of the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI from China, what happens is they have cross-border trade. They're using the geography to shorten their distances in culture, distances in business as well. We are not so far away. And from what I understand, even in North Bangladesh, there are ways to arrive at China if there was an economic corridor that we could initiate. Of course, there is parts of India and Nepal also involved in that kind of border trade, if there ever was to be one. And not just that, if you look at China and how it has progressed into a technologically advanced country, I was very close to say civilization, but technologies are developing there, and America, if you look at it, they're falling back behind on this technology boom that China is spearheading, and you see Pakistan is gaining benefit from this as well as other countries, and due to the 50% tariff on India, even India is looking forward to China. As of very recent, they have been having border territorial issues over the years. There is a lot for Bangladesh to benefit from China as well. Previously, we were hearing of them trying to build us a military, an airbase in Lalmorirhat as well. And not only that, of course, looking at the Tista barrage and how they can help us develop those kind of places. Most of the roads, as far as I know, even in the previous regime, were funded by the Chinese, and definitely saying whoever is in power, that's not the issue. Issue being that a massive country like China has decided to help a country like Bangladesh. And you look at Chinese developments in Africa, nations like Kenya, Nigeria, even they are benefiting from this technological boom in China as well.
Pantho, we will discuss a lot more about it. Ladies and gentlemen, before the break, we were discussing that how China could chip in our development ventures. So we will discuss a lot more about it after the break. Now it's time to go on a short break. Please do come back. We are on an interesting discussion. Welcome to Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. With us, amongst us, international political analyst, renowned international political analyst, Samsul Alam Pantho. Before the break, Samsul Alam Pantho was discussing about the trade relations that we should have and how to make the economic progress in this 21st century world. And he was discussing that how we negotiated very effectively in tariff that is imposed on us by USA, and how India has miserably failed. Because in the tariff war, India is now trying to reconcile with China. So definitely, you were talking about the SAARC as well.
Yes.
South Asian Association of Regional Cooperation. I always say it's the most least integrated international organization that we do have in the world, because even African Union does work better than SAARC. So do you think there is a possibility of including China into SAARC and making an economic corridor as you were talking about?
Yes, of course. If SARC still now it remains very defunct, and of course, you know how India and its surrounding neighborhood, everyone, all of us, Maldives, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, of course, Bangladesh. We all had this India out issue for a while, and it's definitely a failure of Indian foreign policy. But if you look at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, recently it has hosted almost all the major leaders in the world, Vladimir Putin as well as Kim Jong-un of North Korea. And not only so, Narendra Modi, of Prime Minister of India, was also there. So it just comes to show that if China can take a leadership role in this region, there could be a bigger geopolitical cooperation that could include Bangladesh, India and Pakistan as well as Iran. You know, the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, he was also there in the SCO summit and in Tianjin, and that it has been the global spectacle of this week in global news as well as the tabloids. But we must, as a nation, Bangladesh must understand the priority that China holds in world dominance. It would be too short to say it's still an emerging power, because it has emerged, and the show of force in the military parade shows us how we can benefit as a country. Even military developments, we were talking about it while the camera was off, but if you look at military components in Bangladesh, it's very lacking. It's quite so redundant and old that we're not prepared.
Look at NATO.
Definitely. NATO's budget went up by 5%, was there. And Article 5 of the Charter says that any country that is attacked under NATO is every country
considered to be attacked
by everyone else. So that's the rule. And of course, Ukraine-Russia war is still impending, and Vladimir Putin cannot be stopped. In my opinion, that's quite the firm talk. And I hear that Mr. Putin is set to visit India, our neighboring country, in the coming months of December, November and December, somewhere there. And of course, this is September, and the UN General Assembly is on its way. But if you come back to our region of Bangladesh and Pakistan and how we can benefit of this relationship, definitely there should be a military understanding between the two nations. There is a 4,000-kilometer border that we share with India, and every now and then when the policies in Dhaka change, the border outposts surrounding a country are faced with multiple issues. One of those issues that include India's state government pushing in Muslim minorities, naming them Bengalis, and pushing out, say, for example, people from Assam into Bangladesh, labeling them as Bangladeshis. And very recently, you know, the Chief Minister, Mamata Banerjee, she was saying, calling out the BJP as a the theft who has stolen all the votes. So the country next to us is going through a major political turmoil situation. Of course, we know that Narendra Modi has been leading this government for 3 terms now, and a similar pattern we saw with the ousted Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina. And today I can compare our Bangladeshi incident that we have in the July-August revolution with an impending situation right now in Indonesia. The situation remains normal. Someone was killed by the enforcement in Indonesia, and immediately afterwards the country sprawled into protests. And if you look at Bangladesh, in Rangpur, Abu Said was murdered by the enforcement, and that's what caused the ouster. How far we are still benefiting from such an ouster is a matter of question to me as well. But we must ensure that political stability lead to an economic beneficial future for us.
But Pantho, as you were discussing, even I've asked the question earlier, that if you have a cooperation or agreement between China and Pakistan, what signal does it send to our Western allies? Because they focus on human rights, democracy, and protection of rights, women rights, and all that. So, what kind of signal does it send to them? And when you were buying military equipment from China and Pakistan, so definitely it has a consequence across the border as well. So, how do you think that our Western allies would react on that issue?
Quite so significant. You look at the India-Pakistan war and how that was a testing ground for the Chinese J-10C fighters, and how significant China had towards Pakistan when it was fighting India. It didn't last more than 2 weeks as we began the commentary, but we saw how much damage that had occurred in the border of Kashmir, especially Kashmir issue is still not resolved. If you look at our two neighbors, India and Pakistan, but Bangladesh should try to understand that both Pakistan and China are beneficial relationships, and whether we can come into a tri-axis movement between the three. There was a meeting earlier on, I think a month and a half ago, in China, where the leaders of Pakistan and Bangladesh attended. I'm not sure who represented us, but we were there as a neutral stance. Because this tri-axis of China, Pakistan and Bangladesh, it is definitely, even if you look at, in geography, it will show you that it's a triangle formation, and in between it's only the Union of States we know as India. And at this moment, a lot of issues are impending. It's an international scandal regarding India and Pakistan. Donald Trump kept on saying for 7 times that it was him who caused a ceasefire agreement between India and Pakistan, while the entire BJP-led government administration of Narendra Modi says it was otherwise. So I'm a bit of a debate. Who is the one who is lying? Who's the one not or upholding the truth? So
we have confusion about the authenticity of the statement of both the parties.
Both the parties.
Well, we have a bigger border with India, as you have mentioned. Professor Shahiduzzaman has also brought the idea that we should give the Lalmonirhat air base to China to operate. Later on, Indian media, they bombarded us that they even should bomb us. We have a huge coastline. We have Chinese submarines there. So the security of our coastline is in question. We have bigger borders. In terms of air defense, the air defense is not within the 4 corners of ground-to-air missile or radar anymore. Yes. It includes so many things: intercepting the signals, drones, ground-to-air missiles. So we have seen a lot of joint ventures around the world. Previously, Turkey was in joint venture for F-35. Yes. Later on, America ousted them from that project, and that came out. They came with the Khan, the 5th generation stealth aircraft. So fortunately or unfortunately, we didn't have the sanction. So the countries, whoever had the sanction, they became more modernized. They modernized their arms quickly. So we don't have the capacity for research and development as well. We see the Milestone College incident, that what happened to the aircraft. That was
a national tragedy.
National tragedy, and internationally, I don't know whether any Air Force does use that kind of aircraft even for training. So we are a lot behind. We are a lot behind in terms of research and development. So can we go for joint cooperation or joint venture with Pakistan and China? The percentage could be 10%, 20%, because we don't have that capacity. So if we go for that, so at least that would enable us to equip the arms later on. So, considering the shares that we do have. So what do you think about the joint ventures?
Thank you for the statement. Definitely quite so significant for our country and how progressive a future we look at for Bangladesh. But every time there is a topic related to Bangladesh's future, or if not the borders, Indian media, especially the highest producer of fake news, as I know it, they would make news such as we are going to cut Bangladesh in 2 halves. One would be the chicken's neck in the north, and another chicken's neck would be from Feni to the south, the Chittagong Hill treks. So they see a future where they are dividing us up again. So that is definitely not going to happen, even if they have that kind of thoughts and ideas to expand their territory over Bangladesh. And definitely Bangladesh is a sovereign nation. There is no other way that can happen except for a military conflict. And if that is concerned, we must look towards our 4,000-kilometer border with India and how we as a nation can have sufficient arms, ammunitions, surface-to-air missiles, if not border protectionist arrangements, and how much or so Pakistan and all our allies like China can help. Even Japan and Bangladesh have a very nice relationships over the last 53 or so years. And it holds a very big significance. At this moment, we are not one of those nuclear armed nations. We look at Turkey and look at Pakistan. They are nuclear armed Muslim majority nations. We are If you look at the demographic in Bangladesh, we are a Muslim nation and there is no way of avoiding that. Of course, all the other religions are there as well. That is not an issue. The issue being that we still don't have the capacity or the technical hands to understand what a nuclear warhead is and how that can put us in the world map, if you would like to call it. We do have a very nice, very strong army reservist. We know that we help the UN on UN missions. The army does help sending out for peacekeeping missions. That is something to be proud of. But of course, as far as arsenal is considered, you look at the entire border. India looks towards to cut us in two halves, the chicken necks, as I was saying. And on the other side of the border, we have Myanmar that has gone through a military emergency situation, and as per recent, the emergency situation has been lifted. General Min Aung Hlaing is set to hold a snap election in December, although those who are opposing him still don't have any kind of media attention. As you know, that an earthquake had rattled that country down earlier on this year, and that is how they are looking forward to elections. But one thing remains unresolved. Over 1 million Rohingyas live in our country. Whether this was a failure of the past regime or whether it's a failure even now, we must target and understand.
So, Pantho, we will get back to that Rohingya issue, definitely, but now it's time to go on a short break. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to go on a short break. After the break, we will come back and we will continue with the rest of the discussions of our security issue as well as Rohingya issue. Until that, please do not go to other channel. Welcome to Talk to Satv, sponsored by Grand Palace Hotel and Resort. Before the break, we were discussing about the military cooperation and the defense interest of Bangladesh and what we can add into our arsenal. Pantho, let me ask you a question about military strategy. Well, Pakistan has a joint venture with China, and because of the JF-17 Thunder that came out of it, and now they're exporting it to Nigeria. I don't know whether it happened already or not. So this kind of cooperation, whether it's really necessary for the interest of the country, for the defense of the country, because we are having problems in our hills because of the Rohingya issues and Rakhine army. We are having issues with India regarding the smuggling of the drugs and unlawful goods and commodities. So how we could go forward with this defense issue? And I would add that when this government has taken power after the revolution, well, people has hope. They had hope that it will achieve remarkable milestone in case of defense capabilities of Bangladesh. So do you think that this government is playing safe or they're not doing enough?
Well, if you come back to how necessary the revamping of our military advancements or military arsenal is quite so important. Ever since 2018, it's been 8 years that we're dealing with a worldwide refugee crisis. The only other place we see that is in Gaza. In Gaza, we see ethnic cleansing, we see genocide taken to larger aspect. Back when we had this Rohingya influx of refugees, something like an ethnic cleansing situation took place in the state of Rakhine. Rakhine is just over the border in Cox's Bazar, and it is in Myanmar, and that country is facing immense turmoil, even militarily. And the general who is in charge right now is looking forward to becoming the next president of Myanmar. And the people-to-people communication between Myanmar and Bangladesh has been very poor, in my understanding. And even historically, there has been numerous amounts of wars between these two lands. The Great Arakan War, we know that has happened centuries ago. And this is where this cultural diversity, if not differences, are coming once again back into the play here. But as for a sovereign nation, we should be able to defend ourselves and our borders with immense pride and lots of technological advancements. But over 1 million refugees are living in Bangladesh, and any kind of governance here in Dhaka right now and beforehand, they didn't target this as any kind of issue.
This is the toughest diplomatical challenge that we do have.
Yes.
Repatriation of Rohingyas. So what do you think that how Bangladesh is handling this diplomatic challenge?
Well, first you must understand how much the central government in Myanmar, once it's formed, how they deal with this ethnic cleansing issue. It's a part of their history as well as it is ours. But if there is a situation, I know the current administration of Bangladesh is looking for a humanitarian corridor of repatriation. We know Antonio Guterres was in Cox's Bazar earlier this year with the Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus to understand how this repatriation is going to take place. But the other side in Myanmar seems to be quite so hostile to such a notion, and we are not openly declaring any kind of confrontation with them. Of course, that is where the necessity part to your question comes in, and how far we require elements which are far superior than any other nation, how the demand for that is going to be on the rise, especially as we see 1 million or so Rohingyas in our community. We are a country that is already overpopulated, and taking another 1 million people is just a burden on the already existing burdens we have. You know that Dhaka is not decentralized, it's quite so overpopulated.
We have stranded Pakistanis over here as well.
Yeah. Stranded Pakistanis who were separated during the war way back in 71. Some of those I've seen in places like Rangpur as well.
Soyatpur
As well. Thakurga. So these northern Bengali regions, I've seen that they're speaking in Urdu.
They're Biharis.
Yeah, they're Biharis. They're speaking in their language, and it's quite a sight to see.
But don't you think that they were the forgotten population? And we have the forgotten population over there as well, because in Karachi there are a lot of fishermen community who speaks Bangla, but they never ingratiated into the mainstream Pakistani society. Even Imran Khan, when he went into the election rally, he said that when he will come to the power, he will grant them the citizenship, which didn't happen because of the populist pressure.
Yes.
But same thing happened over here. There are stranded Pakistanis, but fortunately we have, throughout the High Court's judgment, we have given them to the mainstream, education.
Yes.
We have even given them the citizenship. Now they are the part of our society, but you will find a lot of them who are left over there. So, and of course, there are Bangladeshi shares of undivided assets that we always, historians, claim. So we are not conspiring against the blood of our martyrs or the sacrifices of them. But still, these are the issues that are not settled. But are we really think that in every negotiation table, when we brought this matter, it dampens the progress or advancement of the diplomatic relation between the two nations?
Quite an important concern, like you were saying. Of course, the generations now have not seen what happened in the 70s and how it is significant. Yes, when you study history, you must remember there's always two sides to a story. Of course, the one that is generally propagated is the one that conceives in the minds of the young folk in Bangladesh. But once again, there are small communities in Pakistan that used to be Bengali and vice versa in Bangladesh as well. And I have seen them physically as well. They are quite so...
they live in terrible conditions.
Terrible conditions. So in camps as well, various camps all across Bangladesh. But what is of importance is when it comes to mutual benefit and for future prospect, we must only remember what 71 taught us, but we should look now into the future. It's been 50 years such a gruesome event has happened. In order to maintain this beneficial relationship, we must understand how we can benefit from them, how they can benefit from us. This relationship between the two countries should be maintained, and of course the rhetoric that they tried to rob us of our language, and of course how International Language Memorial Day came about, 21st February, 21st, right? 21st February. So it plays a very important part into Bangladeshi history as well. But as we know, Bangladesh, even I keep on going back to the Chief Minister of West Bengal, because she has said in recent times some things that are quite so important. When the partition was happening, they made sure Bengal was partitioned in two.
True.
A part of Bangla it lives in West Bengal, a part of Bangla lives in Bangladesh. And this is that divide. They knew that they won't be able to remove Bangla forever. So what they do is they
divide us.
They divide us. So It's quite so important. You see the same very language is being used right across the border, but that's a different country. It has a different currency, has different cultures, and this is part of it is colonialism, as how these countries came from. The British used us as a colony, and when they realized it was too massive of an operation to handle, that's when they divided us up based on the rhetoric and the spectrum of religion, and that is how that mutual shared past of before, maybe several hundred years ago, that's how we kept on moving and history kept on fading. As for the new generation that has caused Bangladesh's July-August revolution, you can look back at it as a historically significant event in Bangladesh's history. But what really disappoints me is how far we've come even after this 12-month period.
I'll interrupt you over there. Yes, because this government come through the revolution, but the kind of notions that we are in after taking the power after revolution. So do you think this government doesn't want to involve itself into controversy? Because in terms of maintaining international relation, it is depicting on their behavior. So it's not because whether you want to be untouched or not, whether you don't want to be disputed or not. It's about national interest. It's about upholding the people's interest.
Yes.
So do you find lack in it? Because every month they're shaking yes. that whether they will be in power to the next month. So is it this thought of this government that pushing them backward in terms of upholding national interest, upholding the interest of the people of the People's Republic of Bangladesh? What do you think?
Well, it's a challenge for them. Let me get something out plain and clear. It's not a caretaker government. It's an interim government. There is a very big difference between the both. Of course, that issue has been challenged in the courts as well, how they see as for a caretaker government to be installed for a matter of 2 years. But if you look at the constitution, it says when there's a parliament dissolved or in a special case where parliament is no longer there, you have 90 days to conduct an election, and then even after that you have another 90 days. So 180 days have been gone. We are not following any kind of constitution. We're looking at the same old kind of political game of shared jealousy. So if the previously ousted government didn't let me hold my election campaign, now I will make sure that the ousted government never comes back again. So that's the kind of political basket you have in Bangladesh. It's not like America where you have Democrats and Republicans. Even in America, you see they disagree, but then they also agree. But in Bangladesh, the political spectrum is different, and look at people's expectations. They were expecting to find a much safer Bangladesh, a place where foreign direct investment can happen without any kind of negotiations, and where foreign investors would feel comfortable investing here just normally. But much of the law and order situation we've seen countless times. I'll give you a very recent incident. Goons with sharp, what do you call them in English? Sharp knives, big knives. So they were attacking this private bus association counter in Sohag Poribohan. I'll say it out directly. So where is the law and enforcement? How long does the army need to help the police in doing their duty? It is very important. The army must go back to their barracks. They're there to protect the borders. They're there to protect the sovereignty.
Even after the revolution, the Ghazipur police commissioner, he used to hold the road to come to Dhaka, despite being in the post of the police commissioner. He doesn't reside in Ghazipur, and the government does have to withdraw. So where is the change of culture that we did have, that we wanted to have?
Well, the top brass had fallen. The middle brass and those who were working in the internal government, I don't think they have a change in their heart. You must have that. If you must love your country to understand what you can do. And even in the system of bribes, most government officials, I don't want to say all of them, not everyone is a criminal in my eyes, but some are subjugated to accepting bribes. And that kind of old 80s theory rhetoric must change in the 21st century. And more and more young people are coming into this voter bank that we have, which will be important in the coming election. And how far so will the election be? If you look at Dhaka University, the Daksu election, I'm someone who looks at journalism as well as conducting it offline and online. Why the government, why the Bangladeshi army needs to be in a protectionist state while the election happens. there's no common understanding, a common nationwide goal. You look at, I'll give you another example beyond our borders. You look at Singapore and Malaysia. When the Federation of Malaya just removed them from their constituency, it was a very drastic moment in Lee Kuan Yew's life, the father of the nation in Singapore. He was crying in dismay of how he's going to continue running Singapore, and he laid out his rules. He said the national language must be English.
Samsulam Pantho, if we want to wrap up, my last question to you. India has hegemony over Bangladesh.
Yes.
So is this new dimension in the relationship of Pakistan and Bangladesh, because there is always an accusation that Pakistan watch Bangladesh on the lens of enmity between India and Pakistan. So are we, coming out of the trap or hegemony of India and then getting into the trap of hegemony of ISI? Like you are coming out of the grasp of the raw and then we are getting into the grasp of the raw ISI. So is it the situation, or you see a new Bangladesh-Pakistan relationship that stands on the strong footing of friendship and equality?
Of course, on the strong footing of friendship and equality, but I must say this to you on this show, that no foreign power should feel that they have any kind of control over Bangladesh and its aspirations towards the upcoming century. We know we might be redundant in a lot of fields, education, military, businesses and trade, but that does not mean there is not scope for us to develop as a nation. And I'm sure over the reoccurring governments and those who's going to be elected members of the public, I'm sure that they can definitely do better for Bangladesh and its shared prospects with its neighborhoods as well.
Samsulam Pantho, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on my show. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, throughout our show, he reiterated about the fact, he showed his frustration that the way the Pakistani foreign minister is received by the Bangladeshi delegates over here, because there was a past history that even the prime minister of a country received the chief minister of a state of a neighboring country. So he reiterated about the fact that it's not always about the protocol, it's about the warmliness, it's about showing affection, showing the interest of a friendly relation for the national interest. He also raised his concern about the decreasing law and order situation in the country. He also raised his concern that how this government should move towards election. So there could be a lot more discussion with Samsulam Pantho. I will thank him for coming to my show, and inshallah next time we will sit on another show and we will discuss the rest of the discussions that we can't do this time. So until that moment, goodbye, Allah Hafiz.